speaker for the day. The next speaker for the day is Mr. Rajendra Velagapudi, who is CEO Manufacturing Business Science, and he will be sharing with us again his experience with semiconductor and electronics manufacturing, predominantly on the electronics part, and we look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Rajendra. Just to give a brief introduction, Mr. Rajendra Velagapudi is business head for design-led manufacturing at Cyient and oversees manufacturing facilities in India and the US. He actually interfaces with other sector-focused businesses units to grow the DLM business and is responsible for P&L. DLM, as I mentioned earlier, is design-led manufacturing. He's also looking at creating and addressing new opportunities in emerging sectors. Rajendra joined Cyient in 1999, so he's been with Cyient for a very long time, both as operations head of engineering and head of engineering services. And he's actually responsible for over 6,000 associates within the organization. Before Cyient, and why I'm mentioning that this particular area is that Rajendra comes with a very wide industry experience beyond just electronics or semiconductors. In India, he's worked in the field of automotive engineering at Simpson and Company, Bajaj, Bharat Earthmovers Limited. So he has a wide array of experience and really understands the demand of the market, at the same time how manufacturing from a design-led perspective works. So over to you, Mr. Rajendra Velagapudi, to share your perspectives and thoughts with our audience.
Hello, I am Rajendra Velagapudi. I am responsible for the global manufacturing operations of Cyient. As you know, Cyient, a global engineering, manufacturing, and digital technology solutions company. We are a design, build, and maintain partner for leading organizations worldwide. We enable our customers across industries to apply technologies imaginatively to solve problems that matter and stay ahead of the curve. We are committed to designing tomorrow together with our stakeholders and being a culturally inclusive, socially responsible, and environmentally sustainable organization. In the last 3 decades of our existence, we accelerated growth in strategic areas, including digital, embedded software, geospatial, consulting, semiconductor, and network transformation in key industry verticals like aerospace and defense, rail transportation, industrial, communications, medical technology and healthcare, automotive and off-highway, mining and energy. We provide complete design and manufacturing services apart from contract manufacturing in EMS sector. We have 2 world-class EMS facilities in India, one in Mysore and another in Hyderabad. We cater to high mix, high technology, and low to medium volume requirements of PCBAs, cable harness, product integration and testing of complete product life cycle, including aftermarket services. I am glad to be part of this Vision Summit to talk about India's strengths and weaknesses to become a global player in electronics manufacturing services. Over the last few years, India has seen a significant growth in the demand of electronic products, progressing to become an economic center. The electronic industry has huge potential to propel growth of the manufacturing sector, many times resulting in multiplier effect on other sectors and the economy. Currently, India's exports of electronic goods are approximately valued at $11.7 billion in FY21, and the electronics manufacturing makes up to 2.7% of India's GDP. The electronic market is expected to accelerate at a CAGR of 16.6% in 2020 to 2025, with the total demand likely to account for $540 billion in FY25. The Indian electronics manufacturing services industry is projected to reach $152 billion by 2025, and ESDM sector in India is predicted to reach $220 billion by 2025. The time is now for companies to focus on growth in the electronics manufacturing sector. India continues to be the hotspot for electronics manufacturing with low operating costs, a low competitive scenario, progressive governmental policies, and ample potential for penetration by OEMs and EMS across key industry verticals. Post the pandemic, there will be a new global order. Healthcare, biomedical, and education will have a major impact on the electronics market. Automobiles, along with emerging electric vehicles, will be in big demand. Storage power and renewable sector is also another area which will see a rise in usage of electronics. All sectors are undergoing drastic changes and generating big demands. With much of potential, global as well as domestic EMS players are looking at India as their investment destination with renewed interest due to mounting labor costs globally. The growth of the EMS providers will be across sectors, namely consumer electronics, medical electronics, strategic electronics for aerospace and defense, LED lighting, power electronic devices, and railways. I would like to mention some strengths we have to become global destination player in EMS sector. I hope most of you aware that the electronic goods imports bill is second only to the country's oil import bill. The government of India has taken several steps to boost electronic manufacturing in India, reduce import dependence, and increase exports. The Make in India program, National Policy on Electronics, Production Linked Incentive Scheme for the electronic sector, the Modified Special Incentive Scheme, Electronics Manufacturing Cluster Scheme, and several other measures are designed to provide incentives for domestic manufacturing, localization of electronics manufacturing, and inviting foreign direct investment. The National Policy on Electronics aims to make India a global hub of electronic system design and manufacturing. The ESDM sector also provides lucrative opportunities for foreign investors with 100% FDI through automatic route, attracting investments from OEMs and integrated device manufacturers. A lot of hope is being placed on the success of the Production Linked Incentive Scheme for the electronic sector in boosting large-scale manufacturing of electronics products. The PLI scheme has been described as a game changer by the industry. Out of the total production, more than 60% is expected to be contributed by exports. While there have been initiatives from the government, there are several other factors that make India an advantage hub. India being one of the largest consumers of electronic products in the Asia Pacific region has been treated as a highly demand-oriented market. It is also the third largest startup hub, coupled with strong research and development ecosystem. Availability of high-skilled technical workforce and supported by extensive training programs to ensure the latest skill sets are key to ensuring competitiveness in the future. India has emerged as an attractive destination for offshore design activities. In India, VLSI and EDA make up the most prominent categories of the Indian semiconductor design industry. As most of you know, science plays a big role in semiconductor design activities. India design companies work on end-to-end product development, right from concept design to development to prototype testing. India will continue to do well in the design service because of large number of electronics engineering graduates coming out every year, lower wages in comparison to US and Europe, and strong capabilities in embedded system design. Due to the ongoing pandemic, digital transformation is captivating at an accelerated rate and facilitating in laying strong foundation for a digitally enabled India post COVID-19. High maturity levels in packaging, distribution, repair, sales, and marketing functions to meet geographical standards are as an added advantage. Registering increasing investments in setting up manufacturing plants in EV and EMS sectors is another opportunity. While it looks to be a bright future for the electronics manufacturing industry, there are few challenges that has to be looked upon. For making India a global hub for electronics manufacturing, the government might need to come up with more number of short-term incentives apart from the existing ones. Companies operating from SEZs need to support a part of domestic requirements on par with domestic tariff area rules. As supply chain resilience and localization are becoming more significant, India has to take necessary steps to improve domestic value chain capability for long-term benefits. There is need to push the industry into developing fabless chip design, automotive electronics and power electronics for the mobility, and strategic electronics industry that are evolving in the recent past. India has very limited component supplier base and a majority of high value and critical components are imported. Components predominantly imported are ICs, PCBs, and other active components and need to be addressed by adding component manufacturing capabilities. In India, financing cost, working capital, and interest rate on term loans is much higher than other competing country, which pushes up the final product cost, thereby hampering the profitability of companies. To conclude, the potential for electronics manufacturing is exponentially increasing in several areas with the new work from home and study from home norm, bringing in the importance of manufacturing of electronics and with the emerging areas of wireless technologies, IoT, artificial intelligence, massive growth in data storage, medical electronics, all of these are adding to the opportunities for electronic sector in India. In the next few years, India could potentially replace the need for imports and its dependence on China and others by being self-reliant in the area of electronic manufacturing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rajendra, for that really inspiring talk, especially because you were very specific on what the industry and the government should do to take advantage of the current opportunity. There are a few questions because of your experience in the defense and strategic electronics. You did talk about policies and imports and what is the landscape from a government perspective, what are the benefits that industries can take advantage of. But being in Scient and you had a long, I would say, road to where you have gotten today, there are many small and medium businesses and entrepreneurs today who want to cater to the strategic electronic business. What is some of the advice you would give them? You're on mute, sir.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we are able to hear.
Okay. First of all, thanks, Sunil, for giving this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
And I think the question what you are asking is about how, sorry, so the industry is going to, so just can you repeat that once? Sorry.
Smaller companies, Scient has a lot of experience. You've been in the business for a while. What about new companies who are trying to address the requirement of strategic electronics, whether it's defense or any other strategic space like space, what should they look for? Because people are very interested to cater to this market, and they are focused on taking advantage of all the policies, and also want to have that self-sufficiency from an Atmanirbhar perspective. But are there 2 or 3 things you would advise them based on your large amount of experience in this space?
Sure, absolutely. Ashwin. So thanks for that. I think there are a lot of MSMEs are there today who are supporting particular aerospace and defense related sectors. Okay, so I think each of the industry body like CII and the rest of other things are very actively working and supporting the MSME. And I'm also part of the chapter here for the CII Hyderabad. So where we also provide a lot of information, insights on what is that they should do in terms of MSMEs. I think today one of the things most of the foreign companies are looking for the industry 4.0. Okay, so that's where we are also helping them. And today, as a company, what we have today is our factory is completely fully connected machines. So we have the data right, what is happening. So that's where we are also trying to help MSMEs to make sure that they also will spend some time to ensure that they will also focus on those industry 4.0 and then get some of these foreign customers into their fold.
Okay, thank you. So there's one more. These are from the audience for you. Many of them have wanted to hear you because you've had real, the real experience wherein you have an organization which is catering and doing business both in India and globally. The question that has come from the audience is the time to get approval for products for defense and space is very long. How can startups get to success in this?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very, very long cycle. So we know that. So if anything, particularly most of these companies are coming to India for offsets. Okay, so let us be very, very open and transparent. Everyone knows it, correct? So it takes a lot of time. So some of the things it takes for us for 18 months to 24 months for us to get a customer, starting the discussions and then getting an opportunity, RFQ, submission back. So it takes a lot of time. It is not an just to go and today like anything about the medical technologies and all or industrial, you can get it very quick. Whereas aerospace and defense particularly it takes a lot of time. We should have a lot of patience and we have to wait for the opportunity and we have to work with the customer and we have to handhold them wherever they need a support here in India and then ensure that we'll bring them on board.
So the question was, it takes, when you say they have to, it takes a long cycle time, essentially to close on the deal.
Yeah.
So when you are a startup or an MSME, where are the funds for it? I mean, it's a very really difficult situation, right? When you're catering to, when you want to cater to some strategic organization, whether it's specific to defense or space, whether it's local or global, you definitely have to expect a very long cycle time. Second is you also mentioned that when earlier that Cyient itself has upgraded itself, the industry 4.0 ready. So there is an investment that goes into getting yourself ready to be world class. Then a long time till you actually are able to get your customer to close. How in this scenario, what is the what is the advice you can give to startups in this?
See, I think when I said industry 4.0, not that you have to spend everything on the day one. It is a phase-wise investments what usually people make it. Okay, so we are doing it since last 2.5 years. We have invested on that. So it's not that within a month or a quarter you have to invest everything to do that. And also, whenever we are investing something on any of these smart factories, that is going to benefit us to improve the productivity and to ensure a transparency. And we also give an access to the customers. They will have the live data available for them so they can see what is happening, when are their products are getting manufactured. So what is the status of the materials? So all that will be available for them. So it's not that it will be happening from the day one, the investment. So it will be a long drawn cycle, probably 2 years or 3 years of investments required there to make sure that it is completely a smart digital factory.
Okay, so if I were to paraphrase what you just said, if I were to translate it into advice to MSMEs and startups, you would perhaps suggest that any investment to upgrade, you make it in a gradual manner. Don't try to do it all at once because it's extremely capital intensive. But at the same time, you need to upgrade, whether it's in the short term or the long term, to meet the requirements of the strategic sector, whether it's locally within the country or outside. Is that the right thing I've said?
Absolutely, Sunil. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
So there's one more question again related to, again, like I said, people know that Cyient has been in the strategic electronic space. The other question that has come from the audience is, see, testing and qualification defense needs requires high investment. High meaning for an MSME. Okay, any suggestions for MSMEs? How do the testing and the qualification process? How can it be made easier, or is there, out of your experience, what would you suggest to these other MSMEs in the ecosystem?
I mean, if we are talking about particularly on the EMS sector, okay, so anything about the qualification is basically it is a long run cycle, making from, suppose if you are working out during the NPI cycle itself with initial product life cycle, so you will have a blue label, red label, so various different types of the actual quantities will be manufacturing, but the investments, what you ask about the testing has to be there for anything. When you're starting EMS, you need to have the machineries like SMTs or wave solderings or the back end operations. Plus, along with this, you need to have the ESS, HASALT missions. Those equipments have to be there for us to support our customers in future. So that investment has to be made. Once you have the investments made, and then probably this where you have to go there and probably work with our customers. And as I said, it is a long run cycle there. But initial investments are high to start up for any of these companies, defense companies, definitely.
Yeah. So the related question is, you talked about, imports, and there are certain government policies which can be tweaked to help, local companies. This testing and qualification equipment, can the government do something to create some shared workspace where testing and qualification can be done for MSMEs rather than investing it on themselves?
Absolutely. There are the EMC clusters are available today. So where people can go there and use those things for doing the testing. So we have one in the Mysore. So we are also part of the EMC cluster there. So there are the various companies in Mysore. We have formed the EMC cluster. And the company is up running there. So people can go there, anyone, and use the facility for doing the testing. All testing facilities are available there.
Right. So I think, again, advice to
Absolutely.
MSME and startups would be make use of the facilities which are there in the EMC clusters. You don't really have to go and invest on these. These are essential, but you don't have to do it and make investments yourself. Be Industry 4.0, but that doesn't mean you have to do all of it at the same time. Expect a long drawn cycle time for closing, any strategic electronics kind of opportunity. Now, how do these companies sustain? Because Cyient, when you say long drawn, they have to go through all this. How does an MSME actually sustain? It's going to take a long time for them to get revenue. Would you suggest they diversify and look at beyond strategic electronics to stay in the business? Because obviously they need revenue to sustain themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sunil. I think any organization should not depend only on a single customer or a single industry. Okay, so there is always risk, always risk. So correct. So we need to probably diverse and look for various industries. It should not be the case. We should not say that I'm exclusively only for the defense sector. If that is the case, it is very difficult to sustain in the market, because look at what happened to the aerospace industry.
Right.
Okay, so that's why I think we have to diverse, and we should make sure that we are working in different industries rather than a single industry. That's
Right.
what
Just to summarize, tips that you offered MSMEs and startups. Number one is diversify. I'm going in the reverse direction from which we had the discussion. Make sure you diversify. Make sure you make use of the testing and qualification equipment that is available in the EMC clusters. Don't try to make all the investments yourself, at least when you're small. Then the third component is, of course, make sure you leverage the policies which you talked about, and also expect a very long drawn cycle time. And if you're upgrading, do it in a gradual manner. And that is probably how you would recommend that MSMEs approach this. And of course, on the policy part, organizations like CII, IESA, etc., can probably work with the government to make it easier for MSMEs to play a larger role, not just in the Indian ecosystem or the Indian market, but also being able to service the global market beyond the offset business. If you, you are absolutely right. There's a lot of offset activity that happens because, there's no choice, they have to do it. But I think if we can service the global market at the right quality and, the right capability to access the market, then the MSME sector would probably flourish in this space. So thank you so much for your patience and sharing your insights with us. I'm sure a lot of MSMEs who have been listening will benefit. And the reason is because, Cyient is a company which has grown bottoms up. It has the experience, been there for 30 years, knows how to work in the Indian ecosystem and service the global market. So we're very privileged to have you. Thank you very much for your time this evening. And thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much, Sunil, and I also thanks IESA for giving me this opportunity and sharing my thoughts.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.